Facebook, specifically in terms of censorship, is so aggro. They go crazy mode, censoring any and every public display, any kind of fucking sentiment about pro-Palestinians, Palestinian emancipation. They literally ban Students for Justice in Palestine, the Columbia Group, yesterday.
We do turn now to a story breaking overnight. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg claims he was pressured by the White House to censor content related to COVID-19 during the pandemic. Aaron Katersky joins us now with details. Aaron, good morning.
Good morning to you, Whit. For years, critics have taken aim at Facebook for silencing views that challenge the general consensus in the medical community, especially about the origin of COVID-19. Now, Facebook's founder surprisingly says they're right. This morning, Meta chief Mark Zuckerberg admitting he bowed to pressure from the Biden administration to censor content. The Facebook founder issuing a letter to the House Judiciary Committee that said senior administration officials pushed the social media platform to censor posts about COVID-19 and expressed a lot of frustration when the company resisted. Zuckerberg saying, "I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it." Adding, "I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this happens again." President Biden was asked about misinformation online in the summer of 2021.
On COVID misinformation, what's your message to platforms like Facebook?
They're killing people. I mean, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated, and they're killing people.
Biden later walked back the comment, insisting he wasn't attacking Facebook. Overnight, the White House responded to Zuckerberg's letter. "Our position has been clear and consistent. We believe tech companies and other private actors should take into account the effects their actions have on the American people while making independent choices about the information they present." Zuckerberg going on to express regret for demoting content related to corruption allegations against Hunter Biden ahead of the 2020 election, alleging the FBI warned information circulating online was a Russian disinformation operation. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. Zuckerberg went on to say the company has changed its policies and processes to make sure it doesn't happen again. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan celebrating the letter called.
I think the funniest thing was that happened under the Trump administration, the Hunter Biden shit. That's number one. Number two, in terms of like COVID restrictions, Facebook literally was too late to the game in terms of like limiting COVID misinformation. And even then didn't do a good job with limiting COVID misinformation. The reason why Zuck is doing this is because I told you this. He, alongside many other fucking tech weirdos in Silicon Valley, are going hyper right-wing. They were already right-wing. They're just even more right-wing now. They were right-wing of the libertarian flavor. Now they're right-wing of the conservative, like regular old conservative flavor. And they'll lean into the culture war shit too. Great stuff.
Calling it a big win for free speech. Zuckerberg's letter first appeared in the Wall Street Journal. And Whit, there really is a tension going on here between the government and big tech over how content on social media should be policed and whether conservative voices often get silenced.
Absolutely. The story getting a lot of attention this morning. Aaron, thank you.
Facebook literally helped facilitate an ethnic cleansing campaign in Myanmar. That's number one. Facebook literally is insanely censorious when it comes to pro-Palestinian voices. That's number two. Meta has also hired a former Project 2025 staffer and Ron DeSantis as chief of staff as his director of public policy in the South. This coincides with the decline in moderation of anti-LGBTQ hate on Meta while limiting the reach of LGBTQ accounts. He has since deactivated his LinkedIn. It doesn't end there, though. I've been at this game for quite a while. Many people don't remember, but back in the day, before I started serving 3-minute ad breaks at the top of the hour, I used to be a Facebook content creator for the Young Turks. And even back then, conservatives would constantly chirp about Facebook censorship. But even back then, okay, when there were no ad breaks to be served at the top of the hour, okay, and here's the 3-minute ad break now. even back then, when conservatives kept crying, in my woke bay years about Facebook censorship, they literally would work with the American Enterprise Institute. They had consultants from right-wing think tanks, even back then, that were playing an active role in Facebook moderation. Yeah, Columbia SJP literally got banned on Instagram. Best clip from Facebook. Thank you, Piney Tinas. Take a week off. How is it censorship if it's just enforcement of anti-hate policies? Wait, what? What? No. Republicans used to complain about like straight up Nazis being fucking censored on Facebook all the time. At a time when Facebook literally was working alongside Republicans in its moderation and absolutely was not doing that. At a time when like Ben Shapiro was like the #1 Facebook content creator on the news front. How you fall for that? His name is Piney Tinas. They still won't admit what we all know.
This is where the
Peter
White House
Ducey.
responds to Mark Zuckerberg's letter in which the Meta CEO says the platform censored COVID content after caving to pressure from the Biden-Harris administration.
Senior White House correspondent Peter Ducey joins us live from the White House. Hey, Peter.
Good morning. And the reason that we know about this letter that Mark Zuckerberg sent to Jim Jordan is because Jim Jordan posted it. So about COVID censorship, Mark Zuckerberg writes, in 2021, senior officials of the Biden administration, including those from the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 related content, including humor and satire, and expressed significant frustration when we did not meet their demands. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. On that point, a few minutes ago, a White House official told us, when confronted with a deadly pandemic, this administration encouraged responsible actions to protect public health and safety. Our position has been clear and consistent. We believe tech companies and other private actors should take into account the effects their actions have on the American people while making independent choices about the information they present. And that's not all. Zuckerberg is also writing about Hunter Biden censorship. He says, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while we were waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we should not have demoted the story. I asked President Biden about this. At the time, his team was apparently trying to censor this Hunter content.
You still think that the stories from the fall about your son Hunter were Russian disinformation and a smear campaign, like you said?
Yes. God love you, man. You're a one-horse pony.
And we've still never heard anybody from the White House come out to admit what we all now know, that it was not Russian disinformation, despite what President Biden said there at the end of 2020 and what his team told us once they took office in 2021. Back to you.
Hey, Mr. One-Horse Pony.
Just reminding us of those sound bites.
So even, I think, over a year in office, you asked Jen Psaki about the same thing, and they stuck to their guns. They said, absolutely, it was Russian disinformation. So that was apparently just their line?
Yes, and they continued to treat that letter that was signed by a couple dozen former intel agents who were talking about their opinions of Russian disinformation. That remained the gospel here. And again, we know that this is not Russian disinformation, but we've never actually heard anybody correct that the way that Mark Zuckerberg did with this letter.
Right. Thanks so much, Peter. Here's the other thing. It affected the debate.
Thanks, Dad.
Because he was going to go down and say, what are you doing with this, the Biden family doing with these investments? And they stopped it. He goes, well, that laptop, 51 intel agents. And knowing that Joe Biden looked into the camera and knew it was his son's laptop, that just fundamentally,
100%.
you know that if someone's that comfortable lying to 50 million people What makes you think he stopped when he got the
It
job?
affected the election, too. Remember the poll that people were asked if you
70%
knew about the laptop story, which was not being reported on any other
Which
network?
is crazy.
Dude,
Would
this
you have
didn't
voted for
work.
Biden? And a lot of people said
This didn't work. Why are they still chirping about this? Like nothing. This did not work. I was just like, oh my God. This was another like Republican born hysteria in the fucking 2016, 2020 era. Okay. And yes, right-wing influencers were dominating the entire time, and they still have. And that's why Facebook is just like lost territory. The idea that Zuckerberg is not doing enough moderation on Facebook is a laughable notion. Or, I mean, doing too much moderation is a laughable notion. Bros literally believe artificial intelligence over there. Facebook is actively breaking the brains of all of your older relatives, okay? In terms of like the laptop story, they didn't even actually fucking stop or censor the laptop story. He's saying they paused it. They paused the distribution of the story for like a couple days to make sure that they fact checked it. And then they allowed it to be released. My mom just showed me an AI clip 5 minutes ago that she believed. I know, it's really fucked up. And having said this, Facebook, specifically in terms of censorship, is so aggro. They go crazy mode, censoring any and every public display, any kind of fucking sentiment about pro-Palestinians, Palestinian emancipation. They literally banned Students for Justice in Palestine, the Columbia group, yesterday. Here's an article from 1 month ago, or a couple months ago. Meta expands hate speech policy to remove posts targeting Zionists. Facebook is literally worse than fucking Twitter, dude, and has been for a while. We just don't talk about it because it's only old people that are on there.
no.
You would think that if anybody, Trump put the FBI director there, the CIA director there. He had his director of national intelligence say, I don't know what they're talking about. This laptop is real, and no one listened to Radcliffe.
I just wonder, what are we supposed to say to Zuckerberg like 3.5 years later? Like, thank you? I mean, it just seems to me that every single story or major scandal, we have to report on when people are late. And we've been talking about this from the very beginning. We have reporters on to source the stuff, and we talked about the political pressure and the intel agencies having some corruption in the higher echelon, not the rank and file people that are just trying to do the job. And he comes around 3.5 years later saying, look, we got it all wrong, but the election is over now. So what are they going to do different in this election? Are they hands off?
Well, the last thing you would say is thank you to him, because he said in this letter, and you can see it on FoxNews.com, he said, look, the administration pressured us, but ultimately it was our decision. We own that decision. So, the FBI said, look out for disinformation, and Facebook is the one that screwed this up completely. And so why is he doing it now? Because the House Judiciary Committee is looking into it, and they're talking about regulating his company. That is the last thing he wants. He doesn't want the government breathing down his throat, because he wants to be able to make the decisions that led to these ill-fated choices that they made back in.
It's so funny that these guys are like literally shitting down his throat when he's like actively giving them freebies. The Hunter Biden laptop story was an idiotic narrative that didn't fucking work, because Hunter Biden is a fucking fail son. Hasan, can you admit to being a commie? Also, F Hamas. Can't wait for Israel to wipe out those terrorists. I'm going to unban this guy who waited 11 minutes to say those wonderful words. He's got wonderful ideas.
In 2020, he wants to be able to continue to make them, even though he should not have been able to do.
Why did I keep him? Because he's a pet. Do you support Hamas? I'm a lesser evil voter. Lesser evil voting. Hamas, in comparison to the Israeli state, numbers on the board, is the lesser evil. It's not even a question. Go ahead. Argue against facts.
Do that. He should have said, look, we're not, it's a jump ball here. We're just going to throw that out.
Well, social media platforms, they should not be able to compromise their standards because they're being pressured by an administration, whether or not that's Republicans
but they're protected by
Democrats.
Section 520.
Well, at the time of COVID, Facebook publicly had a stated goal, and that was to push millions of people to get the COVID.
Both sides suck donkey balls, though. No, that's not true. Okay. Like the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, the Jews that did the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising are not equally as responsible for the Holocaust as the dudes who perpetrated it, the fucking Nazis. That's a ridiculous assertion. No, that's not true. Ridiculous.
19 vaccine. Why are they pushing that message?
Agendas.
Why don't they just allow Lawrence to comment on Facebook, Steve to comment, anyone out there? It's a public forum to be able to comment, as long as it's not putting anyone in danger.
Why be a lesser evil voter when you can condemn both sides? Irresponsible. Because there are no both sides in genocide. There are victims of genocide and they're perpetrators of the genocide. Do you say that there were both sides that were in the wrong with the Holocaust? No, of course not. Why would you fucking say both sides? One is a state with nuclear arms and is killing a unimaginable amount of civilians. The other is a violent Islamist militant group that became increasingly more violent in its tactics as a direct consequence of the violence of the apartheid conducted by said militarized state with nuclear arms. There's no both sides to this. The Holocaust was a genocide, not a war. Wait, what? What the fuck? Dude, what are you talking about? Are you unfamiliar with the Second World War II? That is what was happening simultaneously. What a ridiculous statement. They are both genocides. The Holocaust was a genocide. And so is what Israel's doing to the Palestinians right now. Now tell me social media is important after reading that shit. It is, see? He's agreeable. What is this? Okay, I wasn't sure. Trust me, I'm very against the Israeli government. I think what's happening is disgusting. I do think that 10/7 was a violent act of war, but Israel has turned this into something completely different. Yeah, 10/7 had a litany of atrocities that occurred. I still maintain that the standard of violence that the victims within the in-group of the colony receive is still set by the colony itself. That's it. Exactly how Dana Fash will ask this question. Kamala, do you condemn the anti-Semitic hate-monger protesters on college campuses, or do you stand with the terrorists? Yeah, she is. Dana Fash is so fashy. She is a omega Zionist, okay? That is precisely how she is going to ask this question, and Kamala Harris is absolutely going to tank that. That's not even that's a lock. Trivializing the Holocaust is a punishable crime in some countries. Good. No one should. How would you answer? How would I answer this idiotic question? I would say this is the United fucking States of America that I'm seeking out the presidency of. Okay. And as an American citizen, I believe that these bold, brave college campus protesters have every right to peacefully demonstrate against what they consider to be an unimaginable amount of violence. Now, of course, that's me saying that. Kamala Harris would never be able to say that. Come on, let's be real. But like, if I was asked about it, I say it's called free speech. You should look it up. And also, what's next? Like, what kind of silly fucking argument is this? That American students are not allowed to call into question our allegiances with foreign governments? As long as they're not breaking any laws, I have no problem with it. It's called free speech. Israel will look fondly upon those who were on the right side of the issue, and they will remember people like you, Dana Fash, as evil demons. Chatters who have no idea that not all Jews went quietly during the Holocaust and shocker actually had agency. The idea that Jews were some perfect victim and all just went quietly down the Holocaust is absurd. First of all, like, it's not even an imperfect victim in that situation. It is morally just and righteous to fucking resist against the Holocaust. You know what I mean? Even if it was illegal, technically. BB and many Israelis literally do believe that. Yeah. The problem, of course, is that there are many, like, Zionism has like uniquely anti-Semitic traits in terms of like Jewish history of resistance and Jewish culture, like an ahistorical approach, where like some Zionists in Israel specifically consider like Holocaust survivors to be like weak, or Jews who died in the Holocaust to be weak. It is a very weird cultural phenomenon because the myth making of Israel revolves around like being strong, being a nation that will never allow this to happen again. That's why we have to be violent. That's why we have to be militant all the time.